welcome to Washington Exec's video series. I'm senior reporter Rachel Kirkland, and I am joined by artist Ted Ellis, who describes himself as a creative historian who shares stories about African American history through his paintings. His work has been featured around the globe, including at an inaugural event for former President Barack Obama, and in the month of June at the Leidos Global Headquarters in honor of Juneteenth. Ted has a background not only as an artist, but also as a trained chemist, an Army veteran, and he is the museum director of the Southern University of New Orleans Museum of Art. So, Ted, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, I really appreciate it. I'm excited. I get to speak through my art once again.
Absolutely. Let's start off by, can you tell me a little bit about your background, your family history, and how you found yourself here kind of at the intersection of art and history?
So, art has been part of my life for a very long time. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, a city known for its artistic exuberance and culture. And, I spent many weekends in the Jackson Square and the French Quarters, and then I'd go over to the public library and pick up books on art. And, we had several artists inside of our community that impacted me. And, I gravitated toward it. And so it has always been there, comic books, comic strips, all these wonderful influences, cartoons, I was enamored and, and enthused about what I saw. And so I wanted to become an artist.
Absolutely. Now, do you go through several revisions to a painting before it's finished? Do you do it all at once? What's your process?
So typically my process is, since I'm painting some, for the most part, historically, I'm reading. And so I sort of visualize it inside of my head. Then I just execute it on canvas. So I let the emotion pour itself out on canvas. So I wouldn't say I go through revisions on the canvas, but inside my head, definitely.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite piece of art? And if so, can you describe the story behind it?
So, I get that question a lot, and it's so challenging. It's like my kids, I mean, each one of them are special. They're a little bit different, but you just love them just the same equally. And I feel the same way about my paintings. Probably the immediacy of a recent painting, since the emotions run so high during that time. I would look at, but there's one behind me that I do favor. It's called The Journey. And you see from the slave ship to the cotton field to the boardroom to the president of the United States. And I think that says so much about resiliency and so much about possibilities. And so I would lean on that being one of my favorites, my immediate favorites right now. And that's the Journey one. Yeah.
Who inspires you?
Wow. So I would say, my champions are a lot of people, my pastor, some friends, mentors, some historical figures, those who are about the democratic process, of equity and justice, those who will stand up and face that level of adversity when it's the right thing to do. So I would say those are the folks that I admire. And so, just saying one particular person, I'd like to lean away from that because there are a lot of wonderful examples of role models out there, inside my house and outside of my family.
Ted, can you talk a little bit about Juneteenth?
Yes, I can. I could tell you probably close to 20 years in this space around Juneteenth. I live in this community that's close to Galveston, Texas. I'm in Friendswood, Texas. So I'm about 23 miles from Galveston, the birthplace of Juneteenth. And when we think about that, that's 1865, 2.5 years later, General Gordon Granger comes into Galveston, Texas with the colored troops and says, cease and desist, slavery is over with. And I was really infatuated when I came from Louisiana to Texas to learn about Juneteenth. I didn't know about that particular history. I just saw folks gathering and celebrating, commemorating historical activities throughout the Galveston, Houston area. Not till I got intimately aware of what transpired. It was 2 years after signing the Emancipation Proclamation. by President Abraham Lincoln and General Gordon Granger coming into Galveston, Texas, and saying cease and desist, slavery is over. I thought about, what that looked like. And so I started researching and started painting images. And 2006, my friend Sam Collins had a program on his property in Hitchcock. And he had the drumming, he had the oral history of everybody inside of the community. He had reenactments of Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. And I happened to paint during that time. And the piece that came out of it was Free at Last. For the 150th anniversary of Juneteenth, which was 2015, I had a chance to showcase that painting and 9 other important works that I had captured centered around Juneteenth in Washington, D.C., on the House and the Senate side. So at the Rotunda and the Rayburn building. And that was unprecedented. That was historical. And as we push forward now, we see that Juneteenth has become a federal holiday. And I got to say, I'm happy to see that, draw the advocacy and activism through art, at the federal level, at the state level, and then at the local level with exhibitions and opportunities with my art.
What impact do you hope your work is making right now as we're talking?
Well, visual literacy is so compelling. It depends upon on the viewer, but the messaging is that to say what I do and why I do it. When I paint about African American history and culture, it's part of that American tapestry. It's to say that there's value in what I do as an African American, and I try to project that in my work. That's the effort and labor and the passion in my work. So that message says that we're constructive, we contribute in a positive manner, and there's so much value in our culture. And when we do that, and we have those sensibilities around that, we see that we gain people's trust. And when we're able to share that and execute that and in a way that it's palatable, and art is very palatable. And so for the past 30 plus years, I've watched the power of art, myself as an artist and others when I go inside those museum institutions.
Excellent. Well, Ted, thank you very much for joining me and sharing a little about your work today.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate it.